Hello, everyone. My name is Pam Steinbach, and I'm the Director of Planning for the Delaware Department of Transportation. It is just at 3 o'clock now, so I just wanted to welcome everyone. The presenters unfortunately, are at our offices so that it's easier and more clear for you to hear us. And I will be turning it over to Ted Williams, from the COT, to start the presentation. But I do want to just make sure that I can hear everybody in the Delaware room.
Can you hear us okay, Pam?
Oh, perfect. Yes. That is fantastic.
Fantastic. I know you're going to mute us when you guys are making presentations, so there's no feedback coming from this room. So everybody should be aware of that.
Yes, thank you very much. But yes, Ted, but if anybody does have a comment or we are going to have the public comment in the at the end. But if anybody does have a comment or a question beforehand, please just raise your hand. That would be fantastic. So
what we'll do, Pam, we'll have anybody wants to speak to raise a hand, wave, so that you can unmute us.
Oh goodness, yes, me being technical, that will be interesting. We will see. We will see how that goes.
It'll be down here. The IT individual, I apologize, I don't know your name.
I'll be the one doing all of that.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. Oh goodness, I have to admit people. All right, I think that is good.
You're good, Pam.
Yeah. Oh, okay, good. Thank you. All right.
First thing, I'd just like to have a roll call on the members of the council, because there's only 3 of us in the room, and I want to see if anybody is online with us. So first, I'll call the meeting to order. I'm Ted Williams, of the council, chairman of the council and chairman transportation.
Marty Lessner, council on transportation.
John Gilbert. Okay. Are any members of the council online for the Zoom version?
Bobby Pfeiffer, present.
Okay, thank you, Bobby. Anybody else? We have 4 members of the council present. You can call up this next screen. I think we'll go through. We need to approve the agenda and also our minutes from our August meeting. Bring them up. We just want to put on them.
I thought that there was going to be one more person from the council. Let me just grab that real quick. Apologies. Hold on. Oh my goodness gracious.
So that's 2 questions. Council constitute only 7.
Yes, I thought that, let me just see here. So Pam Scott had said that she would be attending virtually. Is Pam Scott here?
I believe, Pam, we have, 7 positions on the council right now. There's 2 openings. Does that sound correct?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 7.
So then,
but from what I understand, we do need 5, just because the vacant spots do count.
okay. I'm seeing Brad shake his head, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep, that's correct.
We can review the minutes then, but we will not be able to vote and approve our last meeting's minutes then.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Members of
correct. You can carry on with the meeting, but voting on things that require action, unless you have a quorum, you'll have to defer that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, the council received the minutes from our previous meeting. We can at least ask if there's anybody had any comments on that from the council. I did not have any comments. Everything was exactly as we met at our previous meeting. I see no comments from Marty or John. No. And we do have a quorum now.
Yes,
Okay.
I did just see that Pam.
I must stop in without anybody seeing. There you go.
So we do have a quorum now, so I can entertain a motion to approve our minutes from our previous meeting.
So moved.
And second by John. A motion was by Marty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Thank you. So our August minutes have been approved. Secretary, your update.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Okay, great. I'm coming to you live from my office. I will come downstairs after the meeting just to see you all that are here in person. But again, thank you all for being here today. I just wanted to provide a quick update to you on some of the items going on in the department, and then happy to answer any questions that you may have. Obviously, we start all of our presentations with our mission to provide excellence in transportation, every trip, every mode, every dollar, and every one. Okay. All right, so I do want to start off on a bit of a somber note. You all know that safety is our #1 priority here at the department, the safety of the traveling public, of our employees, and of our workers that are out there on our roads every single day. Unfortunately, we are seeing an uptick in the number of roadway fatalities this year. So this chart is as of the December 3rd, and we have had 127 fatalities on our roadway. When you compare to where we were in 2020, we had 117 fatalities for that entire year. And I know people will say, well, traffic volumes were down, you didn't have as many people on the roads, which is true. But even to have 117 last year with traffic volumes at one point almost 50% less was still very troubling for us, because we were seeing a lot of these fatalities attributed to speeding on our roadways. But now when you compare pre-pandemic numbers, in 2019, we had a total of 133 fatalities. And with it only being December 8th, we are very concerned that we are getting very close to that 2019 number. You'll see the chart here before you, the breakdown on the different types of fatalities, and if we have different crash types, that information. We are seeing a dramatic uptick in the number of motorcycle crashes. And then, you can look and see the different roadway type crashes that we're seeing. Unfortunately, there's really, no rhyme or reason to any of this. What we are getting from state police is that there's a lot of serious injury and fatality accidents that are occurring because of speeding, aggressive driving, distracted driving. So all things that we need to be educating the public about and reminding people to slow down. Our strategic highway safety plan is something that we've talked about quite a bit. We were able to adopt this earlier this year. It's the document, it's our 5-year strategic plan on how we are trying to, our goal to get towards 0 deaths. And this is our partnership with law enforcement, with the Office of Highway Safety, with our advocates, with the Department of Safety and Homeland Security, which is really our roadmap, and it focuses on 8 emphasis areas of what we're going to be tackling. And it's everything from the education, the enforcement component, and then from our standpoint, the engineering component. Are there things that we can be doing to make our roadways safe? You'll see us, we've been installing a lot of the high tension cable barrier along Route 1 and 95. Those things, we're doing a lot of intersection improvements, things of that nature. And so this is just a stark reminder of kind of the need for everybody to slow down. And it's at the forefront of all of our minds right now, because this number just keeps on creeping up. So sorry to be a little bit of a downer on the opening of this, but it is just, it's an important reminder for everybody that we need everybody needs to slow down. Pam, you can go to the next slide. So I did want to give you a little bit of the preview of our fiscal year 23 budget. We did have our OMB hearing a few weeks ago, earlier in November. And so we did want to give you a bit of a preview of what we are anticipating going into this next fiscal year. So you're all familiar with our sources of funds slide. So we are looking at about a $933 million program for next year. You'll see the three main revenue sources that we have, the I-95 and SR1 tolls, our DMV revenue, and our motor fuel tax. You'll see that our DMV revenues have kind of surpassed as our leading source of revenue at this point. You will see the use of about $42 million of stimulus money. As you'll all recall, we were direct recipients of stimulus money during the pandemic through the Federal Transit Administration and Federal Highway Administration. We're able to use that money to help offset some revenue losses that we've had. So we're going to attribute about 42 million of that for next fiscal year. Our bond proceeds, because as you all know, we sold bonds last summer to keep our capital program going. Our DTC fare box, just around $15 million that we anticipate for next year. That is down. Ridership is still down around 40%. And so we're still doing everything we can to try to encourage people back onto transit. The federal fund piece, I'll talk a little bit more about how this is going to change. So we receive currently about $250 million or so each year from the federal government. And that is for our annual FHWA FTA allocation. With the passage of the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which I'll talk about in a little bit, we do expect that number to increase. And so I'll talk about that in just a few slides here. So that's the sources of fund, and this is how we're going to use the funds. Obviously, the majority of our revenue will go towards our capital program, with 58% going towards that. That number will increase once we get our new allocation of federal funding. And then you have the breakdown of our DelDOT and DTC operating costs and our debt service payment. You can go to the next slide, Pam. Did want to highlight 301. As you all know, it has its own revenue source and own financing through TIFIA. We are expecting about $23.7 million in total revenue for 301 for next fiscal year. The use of that fund, obviously, the majority of it goes towards paying the debt service with the TIFIA loan. We have our operations and then putting about $5 million into the toll stabilization account. We have just over 17 million in that account right now. And if you recall, once we hit 35 million, which we anticipate to happen in 2026, we'll be able to split any additional revenue that we get between the toll stabilization fund and then going into the trust fund. And then wanted to give you a kind of historical view and kind of forecasted view of our three main revenue sources, as I mentioned, with the motor fuel tax, the tolls, and DMV fees. So you'll see the significant dip that we took during the pandemic. We are starting to make our way back to pre-pandemic levels. And you'll see that the DMV fees are really kind of the leading source of revenue. We have seen an uptick in the sale of used cars over the last year. We are mindful of the fact that there could be a delay with new cars because of the delays in getting them onto the lots to sell. So we are constantly watching that number to see, are we going to start seeing a little bit of a delay in DMV revenues because of that delay with the new car inventory coming online. But you'll also see that while we still kind of project slight increases in all three of those revenue sources, our motor fuel tax still continues to kind of be the lowest source of revenue for us. Okay, so the bipartisan infrastructure bill, we are very excited that this is now becoming a reality. I think for the first time in forever, we actually have a long-term bill and funding certainty from the federal government. We've been operating under these continuing resolutions, which seems like forever. So the fact that we now have a 5-year funding source is a great thing for us. It provides that certainty for us, for the contracting community. So as I mentioned, we do receive about $250 million right now under the current allocation. we are anticipating receiving an additional 100 million each year over the next 5 years. What we are anticipating with that additional $100 million is that about 50 million will go towards our regular FHWA, FTA allocation that we get. So we would be adding that to our 6-year capital program and being able to maybe move some of our projects forward that otherwise maybe in the outer years, advance those sooner. There's new formula funding that is specific for bridge preservation and rehabilitation. We are anticipated to receive about $45 million each year over the course of each year for the next 5 years. That's specific for that program. We have, as you may or may not know, we are responsible for 90% of the bridges in the state. We have an inventory of over 1,700 bridges. Our annual bridge program is about $80 million a year. So this additional 45 million, we have a ton of work that's out there. And so this, again, we will apply it to the 6-year CTP and be able to advance some of that bridge preservation and rehabilitation work a lot quicker. And then the other new formula funding for all state DOTs is it's going to be formula funding specific for EV infrastructure. We're anticipated to receive about 3.5 million-ish, maybe a little bit more each year for the five years. And that is specific for us to install this EV infrastructure and make it available to the public. And so we are the actual framework for that funding actually just came out last week. So we're all reviewing it now. We're in kind of the comment period. We are still waiting for rules around the bridge preservation program. Is there anything new or different in that? And then there's also just a lot of discretionary grants that are going to be available for DOTs as well. And we still are waiting on the details of what that might be. As you're all familiar, we've received over $9 million in individual FTA grants for the zero emission for our buses, for our electric buses. And so there's going to be, more funding available for that. There's going to be more funding for connecting communities. There's going to be more funding for resiliency. And again, these are all discretionary that we would have to compete for. It's not new formula money, but we would be able to compete and it would be eligible for that. So we are still in kind of the learning stages of, when will the funding be available? Because while the bill has passed, the funding to support the bill has not yet been finalized. So we are operating under a continuing resolution through February. So we are hopeful that by the time we come back before you to vote on the final CTP, that we would have this year's new allocation and kind of what the next 5 years is going to look like, so that the CTP that you vote on and release will include that additional funding. But as I said, we anticipate about another 100 million each year for those specific programs that I just mentioned. And again, waiting on the rules on how to spend it. USDOT has been doing a series of webinars just starting this week. So we've all been watching them and trying to learn the details of what's to come. But it's very exciting. We just still don't have the exact timing as to when we're going to receive all the money yet. And then one of the other things some of you have probably heard me, I'm sorry, was there?
Yeah, Secretary Jessica, I had just
Yes.
a couple of questions on what you did. The 100 million for 5 years, that was the 500 million that was allocated.
Correct.
Is that in addition to the specific grant money that you referred to, the specific programs in which the state will apply to?
So the new 100 million will be the increase to our current allocation plus that 2 new formula funding for bridge and EV. All that discretionary money that's out there is separate from this because again, we don't compete for it, so we don't know what we're going to get.
That's right. Okay. So at the last meeting, at least according to the minutes, was the department would announce projects that they're applying for once they're identified. Are you saying that we're not going to have those projects identified until February, or that there's
most likely
no
yes, that's correct, because we're still waiting on the rules around how this new funding can be used. So like I said, the EV infrastructure, that framework just got released last week. We're in the public review comment period until January. So we still have to understand all the rules associated with the infrastructure bill and, you know, how the money can be spent. And once we have that, then we'll be able to identify these are the projects that we can advance now.
Okay, so other projects, say bicycle projects, pedestrian projects, other projects, there's none of them out there right now that are eligible for the state to apply for?
Well, we don't know yet because they haven't announced what those, they basically have said there's going to be a list of discretionary grants that you can apply for. They haven't released those yet, nor have they released the details on how to apply or what to apply for yet. They're still in the process of developing all that.
When that happens, are we going to be like in I call it a race to the courthouse where we have to race against other states to make our claim?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a competitive process. And so we will, use our DELDOT resources. We have a lot of consultants that work for us that will help us package the applications to get them in. But we intend to take full advantage of all of the discretionary grants that are out there.
Okay. And my last question was, when you mentioned that half of the $100 million a year would go toward already existing projects that were already in the budget, is that because the time frame, like I guess some of the projects have a 5-year time frame? Is it because you can accelerate those schedules with additional money?
That's correct.
The problem with some of those projects that were on the books was they just couldn't be paid for, and therefore the work wasn't being done?
Well, they're in the outer years. And so if we have additional funding, we'll be able to advance them a lot sooner than we normally would.
But that's what I meant. When you say the outer years, is it the
Like
outer
in
years?
years like 25, 26, we could maybe do them in 23, 24, because we'll have that new additional money.
Okay, so it's not I want to say a construction issue. So I'm thinking
Yeah.
specifically like the Georgetown to Lewis Bike Trail, which is being built in segments, but it's not expected to be completed for several years. Is the reason it's not being able to be completed because there's just not enough concrete to pour, or is it because of a funding issue?
Well, it's the phased out. I mean, there's, I think, one piece of that we're still working through some logistics with the rail company, the rail line, but the rest of it is the funding is spaced out. So if we're able to apply for a discretionary grant that's for the connecting communities that would apply for, we would apply it. If we got that money, we would be able to do it a lot sooner.
No, I was saying, why wouldn't you just use some of the $100 million that's coming in for that?
Because we don't yet know how we can use that money yet. So the money that we get from federal highways currently is for it could be used for on certain road classifications. It can be used for safety project. It can be used in urban areas versus rural areas. And so there's a lot of rules that are around how that money can be spent. And what I'm saying is we just don't know what the rules are yet because they haven't released it to us.
And I assume, just based on the minutes and what you just said, the council will be kept up to date on projects that they're going to apply for, and especially the allocation of the $100 million per year to the existing projects on the CTP.
Yep, absolutely. That's why I said, hopefully when you all come back again, February timeframe, that we'll have an updated CTP that will reflect this new funding, and we can show exactly where the money is going to, what projects it's going towards.
Thank you.
All right, so I know some of you have heard us talk about the new division that we've created over the summer that's going to focus on resiliency and sustainability here at DELDOT. And so wanted to just take a few minutes of your time for Jim Pappas, who is the new Director of Transportation Resiliency and Sustainability here at DELDOT, to give an overview of what this new division is going to be. And so I think you've probably heard me say is that resiliency and sustainability have been something that the department's been working on, but it's been kind of scattered throughout the department. And we felt that it was important for us given all of the what we're seeing right now with the impacts of climate change, the impacts of sea level rise, the strengths of 100-year storms that are happening on a more frequent basis, we have more roads overtopped with water on sunny days. We needed to kind of bring this to the forefront and have it be its own focus point of here at the department. And so I'm pleased to introduce Jim Pappas, who hopefully you all are familiar with. He's been with DELDAT for, I think, 29 years or so, but we're happy to have Jim lead this effort. So I'm going to turn it over to him to go through a few of his slides.
All right, thank you, Secretary. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to kind of quickly talk about, again, everything the Secretary mentioned is this is a really big deal for Delaware. Delaware is the lowest lying state in the country. So there's the trivia question of the day that you can impress your friends and neighbors with tonight, and maybe get an adult beverage out of that bet or something. So next slide, please, Pam. I should also mention that we are a division of two at the moment. It's myself and Stephanie Johnson. Some of you may know Stephanie. She used to be the assistant director in planning, and I stole her from Pam, and I still owe Pam big for that. So we're a team of two right now, but we're really excited. And so we're small in number, but we're mighty in stature, we like to say. So we are creating a website. So this is what the website looks like right now. And so this has literally just been started in the last couple of weeks. So we're going to be populating this with a lot of information, but we wanted to highlight, next slide, please, Pam. This next slide shows you, and there's a lot going on here, but this is kind of a one pager that we want to be able to provide to the community. And this is on the website. And I'm happy to have a further deeper conversation with anybody here offline of this conversation to go into more details. But this is kind of, again, to what the Secretary mentioned, is some of our missions and the things that we're dealing with. So again, just driving around the state of Delaware, we know that flooding of our infrastructure is a significant challenge. So we need to address that. But again, as the Secretary mentioned, EV charging stations, what John and Dart are doing with their electric vehicles, we want to work together in that, in cooperation also with DENREC and other state agencies to make these statewide plans, not just a DELDOT plan, but what's to the benefit of the state of Delaware. If you're on a nice sunny day, if you're on the Dover campus and you want to take a walk to the back of our campus, we are creating a pollinator site where we're going to have butterflies and all kinds of little creatures out there. So it's a new site that has literally just been planted in the last couple of weeks. So again, you might, it doesn't look like much right now, but come the spring, we're really excited about what it's going to look like. And so this is kind of a test of potentially doing this at other locations across the state. So again, there's a lot of information there. Just want to take this opportunity to introduce myself. Thank you for your time, for allowing me to talk about this. And again, we're be thrilled to have an offline conversation with anybody to talk into greater detail. So with that, I will pass it back, I guess, to either Pam or the Secretary. Thank you.
Thanks, thanks, Jim. And then the last thing I want to say, we don't have a slide on, but I did email you all earlier this week about the exciting news that we are about to transition to phase 2 of the I-95 Restore the Corridor project. So they are wrapping up work on the northbound lanes this week, and we are starting the 2.5-week transition process to get all of the traffic onto the northbound lanes in a contraflow pattern so we can start construction on the southbound lanes. So we're very excited about that. The team has done a phenomenal job to get us to this point. As you recall, we started at the end of February. So the fact that we are on December 8th and we're already wrapping up the northbound lanes is a great thing and a true testament to the hard work of the men and women of our department and the contractor and all the subcontractors that have been working on this project. So expect lots of traffic, lots of closures. I would avoid I-95 in the next, overnight hours for the next week or so. 495 will be your friend. And with that, I'll turn it over to Pam.
All right, great. Thank you, Secretary. Okay, so again, my name is Pam Steinbeck. I'm the Director of Planning for DELDAT. So I'm going to be going over the next phase of our CTP generation and adoption. So we are currently at the review of public comments, and then in February, like the Secretary said, we will be coming together again to vote to adopt the CTP so that approval letter can get over to the governor's office by March 1st. Okay, and then just a reminder, we are on a biennial CTP. So this CTP is for FY 23 to 28. All right. Okay, so just to let everybody know, we do have an updated website. We did link all of the 3 public meetings in Newcastle, Kent, and Sussex on our website. So if you do want to grab that cocktail, like Jim said, to view the meetings, please do so. They are they're all uploaded. We also have the that was part of your binder that I sent out, is the implementation plan, the actual spend plan, the interactive map that that I had gone over at the previous meeting, and just a boatload of information on this website. Okay, so I am going to go over briefly the summarization of the comments and the attendees and such for all of the 3 meetings. So just want to give a huge shout out to, and I completely forgot, sorry Doug, to put federal highways on here. I just realized that while I'm looking at this. So my apologies, the Fed symbol should be on here, but we do have a great partnership with all of the NPOs, all of the counties, with DART, with the feds, and most importantly, with the public and our legislative partners. So just wanted to give a shout out to that. And Doug, I will owe you a cocktail then for missing your symbol. So, okay, so the public comment period was from September 22nd to November 15th. We had many modes for people to give us their comments. We had the 3 virtual meetings, so people could orally speak their comments. They had the chat feature. We also had the interactive map feature that showed all of the 13 draft projects that they could go into and make a comment there. Then we also had the email available. They could call their comments in and they could print out the hard copy on the website and then send it via mail. So we did try to provide as many modes as possible for everyone to submit their comments. Okay, so the first up was Newcastle, and that was on September 15th. We had 21 attendees. So I did want to just share a comparison of post in COVID and not in COVID. So we had 21 attendees attend virtually versus 26 attendees for the FY 21 to 196, and about half of that were citizens, and about half of that was either Del.Dot staff or our project partners. So just broke them up into, and I'm sorry, just to remind everyone, we did have one project for Newcastle that is the port area truck parking facility that was identified by Will Mapco and part of of the state parking study. So we had comments for transit, so support for more cleaner buses in Newcastle for the propane and electric, more support for public vehicle charging stations. So that goes right into the stimulus funding to provide that for the public. And then there was some questions on the Newark train station, just about what the progress is and where we are on that. So we answered all of those questions. We also had some comments and questions on multi-use paths. So there was support for the multi-use path for the proposed 95 and 896 interchange project. So we are going to be having a shared use path that's going to be along the ramp on 896 that goes over 95. So currently that's in design. That project is actually a CMGC project. So that's a partnership with DelDOT and the feds working with the with a contractor to work out the best way to phase construction, identify new innovations for the project. And then we did have a few questions on the old Capitol Trail project that is going to be, that is currently in project development. So that project, I believe, just had or is having its first official public workshop. So just a FYI, based on, so that DelDOT projects portal is a great website to look at any current project. There's links to the workshop boards. There's the current schedule for the project. So such a great resource for all of the projects that we have that are in the design and construction. And then we did have some questions on current projects that are in construction now. So just a few status questions on the 299 project in Middletown. Just a comment that how great the SR 141 project looks. Some questions on the restore the corridor, and then some interest on the 95 and 896 in interchange. So that was all just status questions and such. And then there was some general questions on the overall CTP and SUDIP planning process. So we explained that. There were concerns about the old county road that is in Glasgow for safety and speeding, some concerns with site distance and this assisted living development on that road. And then somebody had a question about the Churchman Road study, and then just overall growth on US 13 below the canal. So that, and then I will specifically go, I'm sorry, let me just back up for a sec. So we did have a comment on the draft project. It was about just making sure that once that project went into design, that there was coordination with the parking, the proposed parking facility, and making sure that it aligns with the Route 9 corridor plan. So that was one of the main takeaways for the new draft project. Next is Kent. So that was on September 23rd. We had 14 attendees virtually compared to only 7 for the last CTP. So we had double the amount in attendance virtually. So that was great. So just going through the main themes, we had for transit, we did have a request to look into a transit stop at the senior center on SR10. So we did field that to DTC, and they did get back to that constituent. And then based on the 3 new proposed projects, there were some comments on wanting the bike ped upgrades on Irish Hill Road, which is planned, as well as some safety concerns on Brentford Road, which this project is going to address. That project is going to fill in the gaps for to make a contiguous bike ped facility from the already existing facilities that developers have built since now. There was also a ton of support for the Garrison Oak Connector Road. So that came out of the Dover Kent 2440 MTP and the air cargo studies. So that's going to be a huge economic development project that's really going to help the area. And then so that was generally the comments from Kent. And then the last one was for Sussex. So unlike Kent, there were 24 attendees that attended virtually on the 29th as compared to 43 in person. So we did have more of an in-person contingent or more attendance from the last CTP meeting. So there was a fair amount of questions on current projects. So the status of the SR24 at Camp Arrowhead, as well as 2094 and Angola roads. So we did have a few questions and concerns on the Mulberry Knoll Road extension, just actually, since that is going to be a new roadway connector, just some questions about right of way and what the alignments are going to be and such. So we did just address those concerns and did answer the questions from the public. But I mean, as that project goes into design and such, there will be workshops and input and all along the way. So that was generally the comments. So just to highlight for Newcastle, specifically questions on the new draft projects with the parking facilities and the Route 9 corridor plan, a few comments and questions on bike ped safety and upgrades for Irish Hill Road and Brentford Road, a lot of support for the Garrison Oak connector, and then some questions and interests on the Mulberry Road extension. So the next steps is that as DelDOT, that we do not recommend making any major changes to what the draft projects are. We will utilize all of the public comments as we phase into the preliminary engineering and design work. We will continually refine the spend plan and especially like the secretary said, based on the rules and the guidance and the outline of how to use the infrastructure funds, we will be updating the plan, and we will present those modifications and updates in late February for you all to review, and then finally the plan adoption by March 1st. So I will turn, if nobody has any questions, I will turn it over back to Ted for asking of public comment.
First off, does anybody from the council have any questions for Pam or Nicole on the presentation? I had one question / comment, I guess, as relates to the port parking facility. Has there been a push or desire from anybody at the port to provide additional cargo storage areas? I know it was just announced today that the state of Georgia is moving 100 construction of port storage areas forward, spending $150 million, a little bit faster than what they previously were to be able to provide that additional storage. Was there any need for that here beyond just having the truck parking areas?
I do not know the answer to that question, but I am going to defer to, I think Mike DuRoss is in the Delaware room.
I can take
okay.
that. No, at this point, no. We know that the port has been looking at all different types of options to bring more cargo in, but we have not had that request yet.
I know that parking area is critical because you see way too many trucks parked along Route 9 in that area, which has a negative impact on the community and everything. So
absolutely.
I think that's huge.
Is that project in conjunction with DENREC so that it doesn't become a mass parking lot for idling trucks? So that if we're increasing the capacity of truck parking and storage, making sure the trucks themselves aren't sitting there idling.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'm sure the port has rules around how the trucks are to operate.
So I'm just wondering, whose jurisdiction, if DelDOT is involved or responsible for creating a mass parking area or an additional parking area, is DENREC involved in regulating what goes on in that parking area?
That I do not know.
And I bring that up just because anybody who's biked on the Markel Trail will know there's a section of it which passes a facility that has a lot of trucks there. And on occasion, a lot of those trucks are idling and creating a environmental condition there. And I'm not sure who regulates that, if it's county. But if DelDOT is involved in facilitating the increase of parking spaces, then they should also bring in DENREC or whatever, or whoever, to make sure that they're not creating an environmental issue.
We're happy to follow up with that, and especially with the port as well.
Okay, so I'd like to open the floor to the public to see if the public has any comments or anybody online from the public that might have a comment. I think online you have to raise your hand to the raise hand feature. You guys see, ma'am, Nicole, do you see anybody online?
I do not see any.
No, I don't see any either. I don't see anything in the chat either.
Okay. I take it nobody from here in the audience. I think the audience is all Delta employees, so except for one, non-Delta, apologize. You have any questions or comments, ma'am?
Yes, after your gracious comment, I must say that.
Could you please,
As the representative of the public,
could you please identify yourself for us?
I will.
Thank you.
I begin with a thank you, however.
Okay.
I'm Kathleen Baker. I'm from Sterling Crossing, which a community that has worked with DelDOT for a number of years. And very happily and gratefully so. And we're on the CTP for the airport road extension in about 26. And we're just monitoring how fast the houses are being built, how much more traffic is coming in every day, and with regret observing a fatality not far away from us on Mulberry Mall. So we just we appreciate all that DelDOT does, and we'll look forward to having some of the federal funds be used to accelerate projects, even relatively small projects that could make a difference particularly in safety. So we thank you very much for your hard work.
Thank you. I don't see any additional public comments. I know we are scheduled to meet in the month of February, so Pam, I know your staff will send out an email here shortly so that we can have an opportunity to set up some times for that. I think that meeting might, once we know what's going to be accelerated, that might be a little more insightful for what's going to happen in the 2023-28 program. And I look forward to hearing how we're going to be able to move forward with some of that money that's going to be provided from the federal government. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting. So moved. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much, Madam Secretary and Pam and all the members of DelDOT.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.